My name is Germana Ravanelli. I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist, a mind-body healer, a personal trainer, a nutritional therapist. I was taught that health is harmonizing the body, the mind, and the spirit. Hello. Thank you so much for opening up this video. My name is Germana Ravanelli, and this is part 4 of a 4-part series on inner alignment and nurture series. And the reason I picked alignment is it suggests that we are together, that we are connected, that we feel whole and complete in our world behind our eyes. The world outside of our eyes can look great, but we can definitely feel fractured or scattered, or I use the word splintered when we've got too much going on. And a lot of people live in what I call they normalize a trauma response. They're constantly running around doing all this stuff, which means they're definitely not in alignment. And what the mind will then do, it will jump to try to control something to feel safe. It will try to control a person, a situation, whatever, the dog, the neighbor. The mind will then try to go outside to create stability inside. And in recovery, we have this term, when my insides don't match my outsides. So when the insides are distressed and chaotic because the person hasn't learned how to have a practice to feel safe or secure, then they're going to have some odd behaviors, and they're also going to have a lot more stress, and they're also going to be less kind, and they're also going to have to be more artificial because they're trying to fabricate a feeling that they don't actually have to feed a personality that they want to be. But the other piece to that is coming back and going, how do I take care of myself? How do I nurture myself? How do I get where I feel whole and complete? And this is a process. It's not an event. You might get there and have this, everything's fine, and then something else happens. And it depends what you tell yourself about that something else that determines how much power it actually gets. So this video, it's kind of a hard one. I think it's super important because, it's grief, tools to heal and move forward. And I think what most people don't realize is that we're all grieving something. We are all grieving. Every phase of our life has something we must let go of, something we hopefully are open to receiving. And the ability to have compassion for oneself and just to go, oh, yeah, maybe I'm scared. Oh, maybe I don't feel safe. Maybe I'm really sad. Maybe I'm really angry. Maybe I've stuffed all that stuff down. And most of us, we're not taught that it's safe to unpack it. They have these screaming rooms somewhere where some people will take a baseball bat and just beat a chair or whatever. I don't really find that super helpful, but there's different ways that people can take, that they can own the pain that they carry. And I believe that if you think about a light bulb, energy comes through and it goes, the same thing happens with the emotions that we have. The subconscious will go, and it'll push it up, and either we let them run out of our body, kind of like an energetic field, which is a skill, or the mind gets tight and we get afraid and then we hold it, and then it doesn't move, and we actually become kind of stiff. And we might also become a little bit prickly and chippy and all of that. And the minute you check yourself, and if you're prickly and chippy, you're probably, your body's saying, I don't feel safe. And then if you just keep going harder and harder, then eventually you might snap at somebody. You might be the person that, does some horrible thing that goes, I don't know how I did that. Well, usually it's lack of self-awareness and lack of, learning how to check. How am I doing? Grief comes in so many forms. We all know someone who has lost a child. We all know somebody who has passed away from cancer. We all know somebody who's had a wicked head injury. Their house is burned down. Their spouse is dead. All of these things. And the thing is, when you come to this earth, we call it Earth School. This is a place where we experience grief. And nobody's got, the market on it. Everyone gets beat up by the world and by the life experiences, and it's kind of like, what do you do with it? How do you process it? How do you go, oh, there's this thing and I'm sad or I'm scared or I feel like I'm not good enough. That's grief. How does a person make peace with that and go, a part of me carries this pain, a part of me carries this loss, and learning to kind of have that moment, checking in. I really am a big advocate of journaling. I will sometimes journal what I'm upset about, and then or the things that I'm upset about, what I'm choosing to let go of, the emotions connected to it, and how it affects me to carry it. And then I will burn it. And I will say to the universe, I'm releasing this. Now, this is a really neat tool that John Edward, who is a world famous healer, psychic medium, the man has so much integrity, taught us when we were at his workshop when I was in Richmond. I think it was about, 10 days ago. But try this. This is interesting. So if you think about something that you're upset about, maybe you're pissed off about the kid, the boss, maybe you've overspent and you're stressed, whatever. Pick something that you're not happy about. And I want you to think about it and just rub your hands together like this. It might be someone who's irritated you. It might be you not taking care of yourself and letting someone irritate you. So you find a thought or a feeling or an emotion or event that you're not happy about. Do this till they get hot. Ready? Hot, hot, hot. This is a very, very, very powerful, simple way of raising your energy. So you rub, 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 and then you take your fingertips and you almost touch, and you should feel some tingling. So now I want you to put the symbol of the situation in your hands like a ball. Energetically remove it from your chest or your heart and put it in this imaginary ball. And I want you to silently say, I'm choosing to let you go. And the energy that you've sucked from my body, and now I release you, and you throw it away. You'll feel a difference. You can do that a whole bunch of times. It's just so simple. Now, I'm not saying that this video is going to give you a tremendous amount of help, but it's helpful to understand that everyone's hurting. And when someone's nasty, they're usually in pain and they're disassociated from it. And I always say, what we don't heal and feel, we spray paint the people we love with the pus from the infection, because it's got to go somewhere. Or we keep pushing it in and then we get bitter and mean. And grieving is a skill. Like, I had to learn how to grieve. I had to learn that it was okay to be mad, and I was allowed to be sad. And one of the therapists that I had, and I think this woman was just brilliant, because she could tell I had a lot. And this was years ago, but she said, go to one of these Sally Ann's or whatever and get as many of these old plates that you can get, or cups or whatever. And she said, I want you to go home and start breaking them. And I put my baby away. He was a baby at the time. He's 34 now. And I said, this is how my insides feel. And like smash and psh, everywhere. And I did it, and I loved it. You want to know why? Because I didn't have to be afraid of the resentment and the hostility that I carried inside of my heart. And if I let it out, there's more energy for joy to come back in. And another one, and I did that a lot. I would take my son and I would give him to the babysitter, and I was like, I'm going to go unpack some of this rage that my parents passed on to me. I wasn't allowed to cry. I wasn't allowed to have any feelings, any needs. I had to be a good girl, and I was responsible for other people's pain. And I'm telling you, that is the best way to destroy someone's identity. So as I'm giving this back, I'm releasing this, I'm letting the rage, the anger, the pain, the hurt go. Usually under that, there's a big, big cry underneath that. Because you have to think about it, we're a being in an ecosystem in this world. We're impacted by all sorts of things. But if we don't clear the emotion that's sitting, then it can create something, they call it stagnant energy. Like if you go to a Chinese medicine doctor, they'll just put needles in and it'll move the stagnant energy, and the illness will go away, usually in one session, which is amazing. It's blocked energy. So they use a very different system. And I also used to do something that I really loved. This was when I was in the early stage of my son's childhood. He was this beautiful little boy, and I just did everything I could to treat him the way I wanted to be treated, and I wanted him to feel like he mattered. And I had a lot of emotion that was still grief. I had years of grief I needed to process. So I got these big, big sheets of paper that you use for, coloring and writing and doing art. And then I would get the very expensive oil crayons. They're expensive, they're gorgeous. And I would take my non-dominant hand and I would color the emotion that I had inside of me on this piece of paper. And I would use whatever colors, and I got really messy and ugly and And then I would tape it to the fridge. And I would say, that's how my insides feel today. So I could get in touch with how I felt, and that it was safe to express it. Some people are not allowed to be upset. They have to be nice. That will kill you. I did that over and over and over again until the pictures got soft powder blue and there's the sun. But the subconscious mind speaks through your non-dominant hand. And so I got used to just letting it out. This is what I feel. And, also what's super helpful, go to a therapist. Go to someone who's good at helping you identify your feelings, not getting your head about them, but they live in the body. And sometimes all we need is someone to hear us and go, you've been through a lot. My classic joke, and it's really not funny, but it's how committed I was to try to give myself a better life. I did enough therapy to turn a donkey into a unicorn because I wanted to understand why I was in so much distress. I didn't know how to feel safe. That's kind of scary. And then I needed to remove the emotions that were causing me distress and then allow myself to feel valued, allow myself to feel cared for, seen. And then, through miracles of that, I taught that. It was like a very interesting transition. And I also had this really lovely therapist. He's passed now, but he would get you to get a big, like a kind of a wand and just wail on a few pillows and say what you really thought. And believe it or not, once you get that emotion moving, you usually feel pretty good. And there's often a huge amount of rage. You'll hear it in the voice. It'll go pitch high. And it's because the person's had to bury it to survive. Usually their childhood, or maybe they've been with an abusive man who's treated them like shit. And this is needing to come out. If you don't let it go, it has to go somewhere, and it will typically make you sick. Also, for someone that is open, and I've been religiously abused. I've had almost every kind of abuse, so nothing really surprises me, but I needed to learn to believe that there was a loving, caring force in my life that was not attached to a head with eyeballs, because I found that most people, which is really horrible, they had an agenda. So I needed to have this way of letting something kind, loving, neutral, and powerful into my life so I could say, please take care of me. Because as you have known, people will betray you and they will let you down, because that's what people do. And that's part of being on this planet. We're here to go through pain. Carolyn Mace is a wonderful healer, and she's really, really clear about it. She goes, what makes you so special to think it's not going to happen to you? I mean, why do you think you get the pass? If your girlfriend gets cancer, it could be you next, and don't think that's not true. If your friend's child gets sick, that could happen to you too. So have compassion. That might be you one day, and you pray to God it's not. There is nothing guaranteed in this world, ever. So then honoring that there's loss, honoring that there's grief, tell the truth. Sometimes people will take rocks that they'll carry around with them, like the burden of caught this thing and the 10-pound weight, and they drag it around for a week. They'll do this in treatment centers, and they'll dig a big hole, and what does this mean? This is my past, or this is my self-hatred, and they'll bury it. I let you go. And then you want to replace it with something that's positive, that's true, which is where I typically do find myself going into some kind of a spiritual practice. We are a spirit in a body. Like this body, I call it the meat suit, is a gift to you. Like you're lucky to have it. And if it works, take care of it. Don't treat it like shit. And the spirit is the part of that doesn't, and this is going to sound too crazy, doesn't matter. I don't need to be right. My experience has been is that this is something we live in. But when we die, we leave. And then we get a new one. And whatever you didn't finish in this life, you'll get in the next one, which is probably way too heavy. But if you've ever had a dream and someone who was passed over has come to you in your dream, that's their way of communicating with you, because your mind can't get in the way. And go, what? You're dead. A fellow that I spent some time with in my life, he didn't believe in the spirituality stuff at all. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care. his brother was terminal, and his brother, I think he passed away at 2:00 in the morning, and he was sleeping beside me, my partner, and he woke me up. He goes, "Joanna," I'm like, "What?" "My mom just called me on the phone." His mother's dead. The phone rang. He woke up, answered the phone in his head. The mother's on the phone talking to him, and then hands the phone to him. And it's his brother who's just passed over, who's saying, "Yeah, I'm in a better place now. I feel better. It doesn't hurt so much. I'm happy. I'm well." And then he's like, he wakes me up and he tells me this. I said, "Your brother just died." And he's letting you know that we carry on as we leave. And he was just like stunned. And I said, "Just go back to bed." The next morning he got the texts and the messages that his brother did die. And then there was a seagull at the window, pecking at the window. And I said, "That's your brother trying to tell you that he's not really dead. He just left his body." So even when we have someone that passes away, you can go to a medium and they will often bring in the spirit of that person if you're not freshly new wounded and grieving. And they will know things and tell you things that there's no way that they could know. And the more that I understood this, the more that I stopped getting so upset about when people pass. I'm like, we're going to die. And it's okay. I know it's sad. It's not sad for the person that leaves. It's sad for the people that have to figure out how to carry on and to let the love that that person brought into your life work through you. I had a friend that I loved very much, and he died doing what he loved. And I was devastated. Make no mistake. I was pissed. I cried more on that, that death than I had for my own father, because my father didn't demonstrate love to me. But he was very generous, and he was my friend. And he respected me. When I said stop, he heard me. But what was funny is I thought, how do you keep his essence alive? Was to remember the traits that he gave to me, and I let those traits come through me to the best of my ability, so I kind of keep his spirit alive. And also when you lose a pet, that's devastating. They say grief is the other side of love. When you love, you will grieve, because nothing is forever, ever, ever, nothing. So learning to kind of have some peace around it. And when someone's nasty, they might just be in a lot of pain. And you can also say, "Are you okay?" I can sense that you're not doing okay. It's not your responsibility to fix, but you can say, "Do you need support? Do you need help?" And the more volatile someone is, usually the more pain that they're in. And remember, it's not about you and it's not about me. It's usually unresolved grief that comes up like a volcano. Boom. So it's better if you can find ways to kind of let some of it trickle off. I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but one of the other things that some of the therapists I've listened to have said, they buy like a dozen eggs or 3 dozen eggs, and they go outside and they just peg a tree one at a time. Bang, splat, bang, splat. And believe it or not, there's a very therapeutic response to that, because a part of you needs to know that you're not alone and that you can funnel that anger or that disappointment. And it's okay. It's actually healthy. Better do that than take it out on yourself or be depressed or eat or do drugs or whatever your deal is. Yeah, grief is part of life, and we're all in it together. And some people just, however they handle it's different, and however you handle it's different. I loved the coloring thing, and I loved the breaking of the dishes. I loved that. And sometimes, I've screamed really loud at whatever is up there, and I'm like, "I've done everything I can. You need to show up for me now." Boom, and then something changes just like that. And some people will also do like really hard trigger release work with a masseuse. And if they ride the emotion and you can breathe, they ride the body, the knot in the body, that is usually some form of fear and grief stuck in the body. And they'll ride that. And if you can breathe and just allow it to come out of you with a color or a sound and just release it, all of a sudden your body starts to reset itself and go back to its more natural, healthy state. I mean, what happens when you have a baby and the baby's not well? It's like, oh, it's cute. And then it starts to sob. And you don't like shut it up. You don't go, shut up, you shouldn't be crying. You actually hold it and soothe it and coddle it. And maybe within 2 to 3, maybe 5 minutes later, if we're lucky, the baby's happy again. It's an electrical energy that's trying to move. And if you give the baby permission to let it move out, the baby now comes back to homeostasis. People are like that. And most of us have some freaky taboo about grief. It means you're alive and it means you loved. And it also is about attachment. So if you have an attachment to something, that means you want it to be a certain way, that creates grief. And one of the Buddhist philosophies is non-attachment. Non-attachment. And most of us are heavily attached, and that's what causes the most grief. So if you can learn to create some kind of a practice that allows you to be aware, what do I need if I'm upset? Tell the truth. This is one that I love because I'm so sensitive, and sometimes that's really hard. But I'll place my hand on my chest because I'll feel a tension. When I get upset, I lose my voice. Great, eh? But I'll place my hand on my chest and I'll say, I'm so sorry that you're sad. And I'll just kind of soothe myself like I would soothe a toddler. I love you. I care for you. I'm here for you. We all need to know that. And sometimes you'll get it through a partner if you're fortunate, someone who's attuned and in alignment. But most people can't handle other people's grief because they can't handle their own. Yeah. Grief triggers grief. So if you find you're at a movie and all of a sudden you're sobbing, and you're like, why am I sobbing? Because a part of you has seen a scene that reminds you of something you haven't cleared, and the body's trying to clean it. The subconscious is always trying to remove unfinished business through grief, through anger. Also, like playing something that's kind of intense would be fun, like whether you hit a baseball, hit a golf ball, soccer ball, something athletic is also a great way. When I'm really pissed, I'll go work out really hard, and I will go at it like a dragon. And I'm not doing it for anybody else other than just getting it out of my system, because it makes you sick if you keep it. You know, and if you have lost someone, give yourself permission to like write them a letter. I love you. I will miss you. Thank you for this. Thank you for this. You know, and if you know someone's going to leave you because they've got a terminal diagnosis, I really love this, and it's very sensitive, but you know, you can talk to that person and say, you know, what's your sign that you want me to know when you're on the other side so I know it's you? And some people do that, and it really soothes them, because all of a sudden, like, yeah, our special sign was an orange butterfly or whatever it is. Some people use coins. Some people use cards. But you lose nothing by having the conversation, to be open to comprehend that there's more than this world. This is not a one-trick pony world. You know, you look at some people and they have this easy, smooth life, and you might not have been one of them. Well, how could that happen? That's usually a carryover from another incarnation. We finish, we pick up whatever we didn't heal, we keep doing it, which is painful. And the other thing you can also do is learn to have some self-forgiveness or self-compassion. I think that's one of the wisest things we can ever do. I'm not saying it's automatic or that it's easy, but then you're not living with the enemy, being your own mind working against you. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I pray that whatever grief that you're giving birth to and releasing passes, and that you can change that and fulfill that with love. Whether it's, you know, something like flowers. I love a healing symbol of love, and I will often bring that into the body, because we are love. Everything else is trained into us to be, we think we're smart or analytical or better than, which is just the mind creating more trouble. So thank you for watching, and if you have anyone that you know is suffering that might need a little bit of encouragement, please feel free to pass this on. There's some real good ones in there. Have a wonderful day from Germana.